What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Carvalho Creations, where I show you how to make awesome props and projects of your own. In today's video, I'm going to be making someone that's been dying to meet you.
Well, I've done the dying part already. But wait, you made me? I thought I was a cursed trash bag or something.
Well, yeah, you started out as plastic wrap in the beginning. A little bit of regret, if I'm being honest. But I definitely made you.
Oh my god, I'm beautiful. Horrifying, but beautiful. Wait, does that mean I get a name? A backstory? A Netflix deal?
Let's just start with the porch, okay?
Right. The other stuff will come later. I love it. This is my origin story then, isn't it?
Sure is. And I'm going to show you guys how to make one just like them, using a little bit of plastic wrap, a heat gun, and some Halloween creativity.
Tell them to wear gloves. You melted my armpit.
Will do. So if you guys want to make a creepy trick-or-treater greeter of your own to freak out your neighborhood, you're in the right place. But now I think it's time we get in that spooky mood, because we're about to go wild. Alright, what's up, everybody? So in today's video, we're going to be making something I call a trick-or-treater greeter. But before we actually get to the material list, I want to talk about the design of the character a little bit and what you're going to be using him for. So the idea behind this was I wanted to make a puppeted character that you can have to greet your trick-or-treaters, or even if you're doing a haunt, to greet your guests as they come in, as this kind of like dead corpse body that's talking to them as they come. So you can use your scare actors for this, or you can do it yourself. So basically what he's going to be is, I'm thinking of more of like just the torso area, maybe with the spine hanging out at the bottom or something like that. So he looks a little gruesome, looks a little creepy, but it's going to be a cool, depending on how you use him, either a really good scare tactic or a comic relief type of character to kind of help with that fun excitement of Halloween. So I'm going to be making this guy out of like super budget friendly materials today. You can just get a Bucky skeleton and use it like that and try to make your characters, but I wanted to go a step further and show you guys how you can make this out of some chicken wire and some cardboard, basically. But anyway, he's going to be sitting in, I'm going to create like a little shadow box where he sits in so I can hang him up if he's not being used. And then I'm going to be drilling a hole behind the character so I can put my arm through and puppet him, his head, and maybe his hand to give him a little animation. I don't do a lot of animatronics on this page. That's something I will be getting into in the future. But for now, we're going to do this puppet technique. I think it's going to be a really cool addition. So why don't we go ahead and get to the material list so you know what you're going to need to get this guy going. So like I said, to make this character, we're not going to be using a Bucky skeleton. I'm going to show you how to create one. So we're going to be using some chicken wire first and foremost to create like the rib cage area. So I have like a little bit of something to start with as a structural support. Now I want him to be super lightweight because I'm going to be holding him and I don't want that strain after a long time to be too heavy. Now there's a couple materials that'll make the face a little bit heavier, like we're going to be using our cement clay today for our sculpture, but it's going to be going over a styrofoam head. So you can either use a styrofoam head, or like me, I'm going to be repurposing my ghoulish host that I showed you guys how to make a few years ago. So I'm going to take him apart, remove the eyes and stuff, re-sculpt his face, because I want this guy to be like a creepy kind of comical character to make it a little bit more interesting for the audience, right? So definitely that. We're going to be needing cardboard to create the bones and ribs of this character. We're going to be using some pool noodle for the arms because I want them to be rigid enough to create that arm look, but I still want them to be pulsable and super lightweight. So no PVC in this, just chicken wire, cardboard, and our pool noodles for this, and then of course our styrofoam head. Now you're going to be needing a little bit of black material to create basically like a sleeve to go around your arm, so when you puppet him, everything is going to be blacked out. You're not going to be able to see your arm coming through the hole, so it's going to give that cool effect. I will add different like lights or material hanging from our little booth we're going to create. We're definitely going to need a sheet of plywood for this as well. You can get away with just doing like a 1x2 piece of wood frame if you want to do that, if you're really trying to hold on to the budget here. But I got a little sheet of plywood that I can use to create this illusion. So it's not a character that's meant to be outside in the elements getting blown around. This is going to be on your porch here. So I'm thinking really lightweight things. I'm thinking things that you're going to be able to carry, that's going to sit up and look really cool still. We're going to be needing a little bit of plastic in today's video as well to create the corpsing techniques, because like I said last year, I showed you guys how to make a little corpsed fairy character. And if you wanted to see a larger character, I told you I'd do that. So in today's video, we're going to be doing that. I'm going to show you how to corpse out a skeleton, give him different layers, make him look like he's rotting. We're going to be needing a little bit of old clothes because I want like a shirt over them, because the arms aren't going to be bones. I'm going to have them pool noodles. I want the arms covered, but I still want them to be able to be articulated and things like that. So I'm excited for this one. This is going to be really cool. It's going to be a fun, interesting build. So I hope you guys are ready for it, because I think it's time that we go wild with it. All right, everyone, to start off our build today, we're going to be using a little bit of chicken wire. I'm going to get my tin snips here so I can cut a nice piece. Now, I want to let you guys know you want to cut a piece that's wide enough to create basically a cylinder to mimic the size of the torso you're trying to create. Now, this is a skeletal structure, so it's going to be a little bit thinner than someone that has meat on their bones, obviously. So just kind of go by eye and try to get the form you're looking for. And now I'm just going to go ahead and form my chicken wire with my hands. Now, if you guys haven't used chicken wire, make sure you're using gloves, because this stuff can scratch you up. But make sure you have reference pictures as well, so you can kind of get the form down correctly, so proportionally it looks correct. And now to create a little guide for myself, so I'm not just putting cardboard like randomly on this piece, I'm just going to be using a little bit of painter's tape here to create where I want the ribs to go, how I want them to form around the body. And it just gives me a little visual of what I'm doing really easily before I get to my actual cardboard stage. Now for the cardboard here, I'm just going to be cutting strips of cardboard. These are about 3/4 of an inch to an inch thick. And I'm not trying to get them perfectly straight, so I'm not using a straight edge or anything like that. I figured this is going to be fine for what I'm trying to do. This is going to be an underlayment to our plastic wrap to create the corpsing effect, so I'm not too worried about getting these bones exactly perfect. Plus, nothing in nature is completely straight, so a little bit of curvation in the actual carving of the cardboard is completely fine. And here I'm going to be just gluing right over my tape that I put down as a guide. And I'm putting the rib cage down first, and at the end I'll be putting that center bone piece like over your sternum, just to cover the seams here so it looks more natural. Now I want to point out that you guys want to go ahead and kind of like pre-bend your cardboard before you start to apply it to your tape like this. It just makes it a lot easier. If it's rigid, and it's going to have a tendency to stay that way, and it's going to be harder for you to glue down. So just pre-bend it before you get started. And now to create the spine that's going to be hanging out of the bottom of the torso, I thought it'd be a good idea just to kind of make slices with my pool noodles here. And then I'm going to be using a little bit of 1/2-inch PVC pipe. This is just some scrap I had left over, and my PVC pipe cutters. I'm going to cut these down to about 1/2 inch. And these are going to work as spacers in between the pool noodle slices to make it look like vertebrae, basically. So I thought this was a pretty cool idea. And then I'm going to be using a little bit of 16 gauge wire here just to loop in that bottom PVC pipe that you see me doing here. Make sure that's tied around your PVC pipe well so it doesn't come off. And then I'm going to be alternating, sliding over my pool noodles and then my PVC pipe. And this is going to actually be a really cool vertebrae to put on our little chicken wire mesh here. And I'm just going to be using that 16 gauge wire and just hooking it into that chicken wire and tying it off. But you can see how cool of an effect this is, and it's super cheap to get this done. And here I'm just cutting sections for the arms. So I'm using 4 sections for the arms here so I can have an upper arm and then the lower arm. And I'm just going to be connecting them all together with a little bit of 16 gauge wire and pool noodle. Now I want to mention, because my pool noodle kind of tore out from moving it around, if you just take a little bit of duct tape, maybe like 2 swirls of duct tape around the edge of your pool noodles and then poke your wire through, it's a much stronger bond. Now that everything is put together in our armature, to get to the painting stage, I'm just going to be putting down this off-white color to start off with. I think this is a really nice base coat to start, so you can't see the blue from the pool noodle and this cardboard color, and everything looks more uniform when you're done with this stage. And now to get to our corpsing step, I'm just taking some of this plastic drop cloth. Now mine has writing on it. If you get the stuff from the Dollar Tree, there's no writing, so you don't have to worry about that. But here, I just had this on hand, so I thought I would use it. Now, when you're doing your corpsing, you're gonna be using a heat gun. You gotta be very careful this thing gets super hot, but what I do is wrap the body around with my plastic wrap first, as tightly as possible, and then just go over it with that heat gun, and it starts to grab your armature. So it's a perfect way to create this rotten skin kind of vibe. I'm sure you guys have seen this before. Now with the heat gun too, as long as you keep it moving, it'll just shrink it up. But if you keep going in one certain area for longer periods of time, you can see how that plastic starts to tear and create holes, and they're natural looking holes that create that rotten flesh. So this is the most basic way to create this rotting flesh, this corpsing technique. But I love it. It's super cheap. It's really versatile. You can use it on a ton of different characters, and it creates a great skin and effect at the end. And again, too, you can use a ton of different layers with this. Just start off with one layer relatively thin and then add as you need to create more corpsing, more skin. All right, everybody, before we go on to our next step, I kind of wanted to stop and just tell you guys and show you guys our progress so far. So with our little armature here, this guy's coming out pretty cool. I just put on some old hands for him. If you guys want to see how I make my prop hands, I'll link those videos down in the description below so you guys can make your own hands. But for this character, look how cool it looks just with using the cardboard, just with using the chicken wire. Very simple techniques to get an overall cool looking corpse. So as you can see here, I have him on my stand here, but he's really lightweight. This is the head I'm going to use, and so you guys can see this. I went ahead and repurposed this head here, and I ended up gluing a piece of fabric in the mouth here just so it can articulate the way I need it to, because the last time I made this host guy, he was a little bit kind of closed in with the mouth, so I wanted more control. And also on the inside here, as you can see, I put little pieces of plastic to where my hand can grip in here and then my thumb can sit under here. So when I go to puppet him, he's going to be able to look pretty damn crazy looking. So coupled with that, I went ahead and cut this jaw here at the side too. So this entire bottom piece is now hanging, and that's what I want for this puppet, because I want him to be over dramatized so he can say little things or get crazy and start yelling. Ah, hello there everyone, and how are you? Right, so also too with the eyes here, if you guys haven't seen my cauldron video, I'll link that in the description down below where I show you guys how to make these awesome eyes as well. We're about ready to get to the sculpting of this. And then for this, now that he's all done, I went ahead and sprayed him with another layer of paint, just that same white paint that I used in the clip you saw a couple moments ago. And I'm going to go ahead and put just a stain over this. So I'm going to use a real deep color, like an espresso color or maybe a Kona, to deepen in all this color, make them look really rotten. And then for the sculpture, like I said, we're going to be using our cement clay today. So I'll be sculpting over this sculpt. So I did cut out certain areas like the nose. I didn't want the nose in this one. And I kind of shaved down some of this foam that I had here so I can go back and create more textures and details myself. Also too, I did glue in a little piece of cardboard here for the teeth as well. That way I have something to attach my cement clay to. So we're just about ready for that sculpt and that staining process. And then we'll get over to building the actual shadow box structure for this guy to be inside of. And then I'll show you that step as well. So why don't we go ahead and get to the next step. Now to get ready with my sculpture, like I said just a second ago, I'm going to go ahead and I did carve up my foam head a little bit and put those cool eyes in there. And again, I'm going to link my cauldron video down in the description below if you guys haven't seen that one, so you can see how I make those eyes. But here I'm just taking a little bit of water like I always do when I work with my cement clay and spritzing my foam head before I start. That way I can get a nice grip with my clay, and it has more tendency to stick to the actual armature than my fingers if I do this. Also too, I've mentioned this before, but make sure you have like a little container with some dry cement as well, so you can dip your fingers in there. It just makes it easier to get this stuff off your fingers and onto your armature and work with it a little bit like that. And here what I'm doing, because it's so hot where I'm at, and also too, it's just a good thing to get used to for you guys as well, is I like to form out the features of the character And then once I have about the right form that I'm looking for, then I take my sculpting tool and immediately start to add detail. Now I do that with this specific type of clay because it has a tendency to dry and create a skin that you can't work with after you get it put down. So you want to make sure you get your sculpting in before you start to add any more clay and it dries up on you. Now here I'm covering that cardboard I put in for the teeth. And it's essential that you have some kind of armature underneath for your teeth. If you just try to put the clay on there by itself, it'll come off on you. It'll be a real pain to carve. So just make sure you have a little strip of cardboard for where you're going to have your teeth, and then you can sculpt right over that, no problem. And again, if you guys are wondering the type of sculpting tools I'm using in this video, I'll go ahead and leave a link to my Amazon affiliate program down in the description below so you can see all the tools and all the products I'm using in today's video and all my other videos. So make sure you check that out. Now here for the chin, I'm adding a nice piece of clay on the bottom, but I'm going to be pulling it down with my tool a little bit, as you guys can see here. And that's going to create that ripped flesh look, because I want to mimic what I'm doing with the plastic wrap onto the sculpture as well. So it's a very cohesive piece and it looks like it's all one character. And again, I'm going to just be haphazardly putting clay along the face and the head as well, and then peeling that back the same way I did with the jaw, so it looks like portions of the skull are exposed. Now to get to the staining process on our corpse, I'm just going to be taking that Kona stain, that real dark stain, and I'm using a cheap chip brush, and I'm just going to put on as much of this product as possible so I get a real nice deep color. Now I want to mention also too, once this layer dries, I would add maybe another 1 or 2 layers of this stain over the top of that and let it dry completely until you get the desired dark skin tone you're looking for, because this does have a tendency to dry a little bit lighter. But make sure you get into all the nooks and crannies of this plastic, and because that heat kind of shrinks the plastic up, it creates a lot of cool wrinkles, so it really looks like a natural corpsing job. And then to add a little bit of depth, because I like the way it looked, but I wanted this to feel a little more dark and kind of like grungy, like it's been sitting there for a while, I'm just using my black spray paint here and deepening in the colors in the actual exposed ribs and then all the holes we made as well. It just makes everything feel a little bit more gritty. Now here for my plywood base, I'm cutting just 6 inches off either side of this piece. Now I had a small piece of plywood. You can make this whatever size you want. The overall dimensions once I was finished was about 48 inches high by 36 inches wide, and then I have just this 6-inch like shadow box basically that I was creating, just so it gave it a little bit of character and depth, and I can decorate it at the end as I see fit. Now here I'm using my brad nailer. You can always use just regular nails, or screws will work great as well. Just when I'm working by myself, it's a lot easier to use this tool, but it's not necessary for this project. Now the wood glue I'm using here is just a regular wood glue. It's not an outdoor wood glue. You can definitely use that if you plan to have this out in the elements. I'm not, so I'm just using regular wood glue here. That'll be just completely fine. And now I'm going to take just a gallon bucket to create a nice size hole that I can stick my hand through. So I'm doing one for the actual head itself, and then another smaller one toward waist height about for the character, so I can put a stick in there to attach to one of the hands so I can puppet the hand as well as the mouth. You want to make sure that your hole is a lot bigger than your arm for this too, so you don't have like a restricted space. You want to have a lot of free range to move your hand to create a lot of character.
And to get to the painting stage, now I'm just going to be giving this backdrop a black coat. That way it just disguises any of the movement from my hand and the material I'm going to be using, and it looks like the puppet's alive. And that's the whole premise of this build, is to create the illusion that that puppet is freestanding and alive. Also too, for the actual face here, I'm giving it a black base coat as well. Like I talked about in a lot of my videos, if you guys have been following me for a while, I like putting a black base coat down. It just makes it a lot easier to pop the rest of the colors out. Now, to go along with what we have done in the corpsing process, I want to give this guy like a mustard color for his base coat. And you want to make sure you have a nice even base coat. So do as many coats as you need to get this all even. And then I'll be going back with a dark brown wash here and just putting as much of this down as possible. And then before it dries, so relatively quickly, I'll take a dry rag, and then dab away some of the excess paint that's dripping here, and it's going to start to reveal all the texture, all the sculpting we did in our previous steps to get this guy looking really cool, really gritty, like he's super dirty, like he's been dead for quite a while. Now once this stage is complete, I'll let this dry completely as well, and then I'm going to go back in with like a nice deep brown purple mixture, and I'm going to start painting in some of the depth here with my airbrush. Now, if you guys are curious about the airbrush I'm using, it's the Swallowtail Barbados Rex from the Gallery brand. I absolutely love this airbrush. I can't say it enough. Now, go ahead and leave a link down below so you guys can pick up your own if you're interested in getting this specific one. Now, this stage is just to get that depth a little more visible, because like I say, for a lot of my Halloween projects, you want high contrast in order to make these things pop out, especially in low light. Now I'm going to be hand painting the teeth here. I'm just using a bone color for the teeth, just to give a little more contrast and color. And it's always good to put a little bit of hand painting techniques in your pieces, even if you're using an airbrush, because it just gives another layer of realism to your pieces once they're finished. Now I wanted to create a little bit of color, because even though he's rotten, I still want a little bit of vibrance to him. And now for the backdrop here, I put a little hook just screwed in, and then I'm gonna be able to hang just on the metal wire mesh on there, so the weight of it can hang when I'm not puppeting him. And also too, I put a hook in the back of the head so it'll take the weight for me. And now I'm just going to be gluing my sleeve to this wood here just to make sure that it stays in place and doesn't come off. Now I'm adding a little bit of detail, but this guy is pretty much done. We're going to carve up his shirt that he's going to be wearing as well, just to give him another layer of detail. But this guy's pretty much done. If you guys want to see more Halloween props, make sure you're subscribed down below. But until next time, happy haunting.
Well, that's it. We built a weird little puppet together. He's creepy, he's kooky, and he's probably cursed. And somehow, he's still judging me.
Judging you? I live in a drawer full of googly eyes and expired hot glue. I'm the victim here.
Dude, you're the one that asked to stay in the drawer. You said it was like your own little coffin.
Don't lie now that everybody's watching.
Anyway, if you like today's chaotic build, make sure you hit that like button or subscribe down below, and you ring that little spooky bell so you never miss another video.
He means more weirdo projects, more questionable decisions, and probably more twisted creations.
Well, you're not wrong.
And hey, leave a comment if you think I deserve like a twin or like a proper name. Something powerful, something noble, something like Reginald.
No one's naming you Reginald. Sounds like you do taxes for Dracula.
Exactly. Respectable, sharp, mysterious.
All right, my creepy creators. Until next time, keep building things, stay creative, and don't forget to
Go wild with it.
I'm Gio from Carvalho Creations,
And I'm emotionally unstable.
and I'll see you next time. Hey man, you alright?
Yeah, just got a lot on my mind, you know? Like maggots.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, bye everybody. If you guys want to see more crazy, creepy, and scary props, make sure you're subscribed down below and you follow me at Carvalho Creations, because it's awesome. We make cool Halloween props and stuff. And we're dope. Dope! Dope!